Brad Nelson really taking a shot here. He's got his Sultai deck, but as we know, Brad is known for tuning decks. And what that means is he a really good shot at what he thought the metagame was going to be. And as it turned out, he thought the metagame was going to be very goblin heavy. And as it often turns out in the case with Brad Nelson, he was 100% correct. So this is definitely who you want to look out for, is a player who understands the format, has tuned their deck accordingly, and has been correct about who it is or what type of decks they're going to see.
Yeah, hello, hi.
Hey, welcome back, Bloody.
I phased out into the void. I returned. Sorry, the ley line caught me for a moment.
No problem. So right now we're just coming into game number 3 here between Luis Samuel Deltour and Brad Nelson. This is the decider, so we are deep into post-sideboard games here, and we see a Thoughtseize to kick things off here for Brad, and he, wow, took the ringleader. Usually Muxus is your number 1. Thoughtseize could be a thing, but as it turns out, it looks like Brad is predicting that this game is going to play out in a way where he can lean on Ether Gust to deal with Muxus, at least temporarily, and the ringleader for card advantage was what he was actually worried about.
Yeah, wow. No, I mean, this is classic Goblins now, though. I mean, you have to build yourself up to be able to get your Muxus against you to slow you down. I mean, it looks like Brad has a decent amount of removal at the moment, but it's looking pretty, it's looking like it's going to be pretty grim if Brad doesn't keep on drawing removal to continually take care of the goblins.
That's right, because he needs to cover his bases with Muxus. When that comes online, it's a major problem for Brad, as you can lose on the spot potentially to that card. It's one of the most powerful cards in Historic, full stop, such that this deck, it's funny, when you first see goblins, you think to yourself, oh yeah, tribal goblins, I know what it does. You know, it's an aggro deck that has these goblin synergies and stuff. And you would be partially correct if you stopped right there, but you really are missing the big picture if you don't understand that the Goblins deck is really all about Muxus. It's about resolving that card and getting it on the battlefield, because the correlation with winning the game after having that happen is so high that it's just almost a ramp combo deck. It's just like, I want to get to 6 mana as soon as possible, and I want to have Muxus in my hand. And it turns out that these goblins are the things that can do that. Goblin Matron searches up your best card, Muxus, and you have oddly ramp cards out of these goblins, number 1 being Skirk Prospector, but you also have Wily Goblin, and then, as we saw a minute ago, the Goblin War Chief, which can reduce costs. These all help you get Muxus down earlier, and we've even seen players do crazy things like put Mind Stone into this deck, yes, into a Goblins deck, and then, of course, the craziest is Ironcrag Feat, which allows you even more ways to get Muxus onto the battlefield or turn or 2 sooner. So that is really what this is all about, and Brad is going to have to maneuver this game in a way that minimizes or has answers for Muxus as much as possible.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's weird because you look at red decks and you don't think ramp. You don't think Mind Stone. Nope. I mean, Ironcrag Feat is a whole other crazy ballpark. But it's interesting that sometimes, you know, the cards are so powerful that you need to just build your whole deck around them, and that's something that we see with the Goblin archetype, is that it's really emphasizing the strength of Muxus and just what it can do for you. I mean, yeah. In this scenario now, though, it looks like, you know, what upon glance, you could look, you see that there's a Nissa, you see Eliminate Extinction Event, but something in my brain keeps on telling me that this still isn't enough. I mean, if Luis Samuel just top decks a few more lands, I think he's just going to be able to swing right back into it.
Well, and this play that we just saw from Brad illustrates it perfectly, right? He just used that removal spell just to kill the Skirk Prospector as the only card on the battlefield, because if there was a land from Deltour that turn, it was Muxus time right now. And Brad cannot let that happen. He is doing everything in his power to keep that card off the battlefield. And unless he hits something off of Uro, he is not going to be able to prevent it from this point. He can Extinction Event the 2 creatures away here, but any land off the top of the battlefield will bring a Muxus. And if any creature's on there, then the tower will allow him to Muxus anyway. So very difficult position here for Brad, trying ever so hard to keep that card from hitting the stack.
Yeah.
He left it in hand off of that Thoughtseize, and it may come back to haunt him here.
No, it's impossibly difficult to just continuously play around. And Brad sees it. Brad needs to honestly put on the heat with the lands that he's got just to hit the face, and then follow up with Extinction Event and just pray that another land doesn't drop onto the board. Because I think as soon as Luis Samuel is at 6, it's kind of over for Brad. It doesn't matter how much he's got going on right now. It looks like he doesn't really have too many options away from tapping the Overgrown Tomb, but he'll still have this forest to protect. I think 17 health is more than enough to protect against a non-Krenko Muxus pull.
Yeah, now as it turns out, he did the Desperation Extinction Event just to get those 2 creatures off the battlefield, which did actually dodge the bullet. Unfortunately, the Thoughtseize cannot take both Muxus out of hand here for Brad, but he is hanging on. He has done literally everything he can at every juncture to keep Muxus off the battlefield, and it has worked thus far. Muxus still unable to come down, but again, Muxus is knocking on the door, and Brad really, really doesn't want to let that big bad wolf in.
So here's something that we need to keep in mind is that Brad has no ways of playing this Uro without tapping at least one of the lands that's going to be on the battlefield. So my brain started to lead to, well, we could have 3/3/3s. Can we just kill Luis before the land comes down? But there's no good way because there's no 2 blue and 2 green on the side of a non-animated land. So, initial thought is maybe we find removal, just clear those off and win the game. But it doesn't look possible right now. Oh, this just looks difficult at the end of the day.
This is going to force a chump block or a trade. Probably this Snoop will probably trade off. That leaves the Goblin Chieftain, which is a key card, because if you hit, there's certain cards you want to hit off of Muxus that are much better with haste, like Krenko. And if that happens here, then the Chieftain can grant that, and then on top of it, if you hit Krenko, it allows you to activate it that turn, and then all of the 1/1s become 2/2s, and that can go from a lethal attack to a not lethal attack pretty easily.
Yeah, and here's the kicker is that even if Brad top decks an Aether Gust, he won't be able to use it. Okay, there's a breeding pool. That's that's not gonna be enough to stop it. Now we get to play the fun part of the game, right? Now we get to play the will my Muxus hit a bunch of goblins and win the game, or will I whiff game?
Yeah, and it's important that Brad does Thoughtseize away 1 Muxus, because it is not uncommon to play 2 of them in a turn. And here we go, Muxus on the stack. It's going to resolve. How many can it hit? Only 2, and those were not the best hits.
But there's another Muxus on top.
Oh no!
Oh man! Oh, this is getting good.
Yeah, but there's nothing to do for this turn, right?
Yeah, for this turn, I think you just got to pass. I mean, if there's any form of spot removal, you're pretty much dead. Oh no!
Witch's Vengeance. I think you name goblins here, says Brad. Probably. What a rip for Brad Nelson. That is going to send everything but Muxus into the bin, and that is easily enough for lethal. Yeah. And that's the match going to Brad Nelson. Remember, we were in game 3 here, as this was one of our recorded matches, and that was the decider. What a win for Brad Nelson.